Welcome back, guys. Automotive Inc. here. Today we are enhancing the rear suspension of the new F-150 Powerboost. Now, as I've done videos before, I'll put one in here for the Chevy HD trucks, one for the Ford HD trucks, and I didn't even bother putting them on the Ram. We didn't have that thing that long. But what we have here is basically your factory bump stops are super small. We're going to enhance that by putting in, I've always ran Timbrens, I've ran the Sumo springs, and me personally, I prefer the overall look, feel, and quality ride coming from the Timbrens. But sometimes you find a new product and it's very similar to a Timbren. So today we are going to test out and install a set that is basically almost a third of the price of the Timbrens. Now again, I will always hype Timbrens if they're worth the money, but this is again a third of the price. So if you are money conscious and need to save a little bit of dough, this might be it. I will put a link to this down below, so just click that, head over there and grab this. This kit was under 140 bucks. So we popped it open. The Max speeding rods. This talks a little bit about their company. So before everybody goes too crazy and says, blah, 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 it's Chinese, whatever. I don't know, man. They're all over the place. You can look into that. Me personally, I think most of the stuff's probably not here. Super simple instructions. You'll remove the bump stop, install the new piece, and then on the F-150s, you will have a lower bracket brace that goes in there for the bump stop to ride on, just the way the F-150s are. And then they do come with spacers. They give you a crazy little embossed thing. You want to put that on something. Boxed really well, guys. I mean, individual parts are nicely boxed. The composition of the rubber feels very good. So far, just the touch, I mean, from touching Timbren and Simos. Although I will tell you, some of the super cheap ones on Amazon, I immediately noticed a few things. So on the super cheap ones from Amazon, guys, when you pull out the actual bump stop piece, you'll actually see from the molding process that there is this little ridge in there and everything like that, where they basically inject the rubber in there to make it. And this one looks just like a Timbren. It's good quality, good fit and finish. But some of the cheap ones actually look like they've been remelted together, almost like they were a reject. They bought them and then repieced them together. If you encounter that, I would be really concerned about that, especially if you can see the seam on the inside too, because if these do take that compression, they are progressive. So it means as more you push them together, they try and push back. And if there's already a split in it, I could see that failing. And if one side fails over the other, I could just see that being bad. So I sent a set back a while back. I decided to try them. They were crap and junk. Sent them back. So far, everything in here is boxed really well. Love the look of it. Love the feel of it. And what I do like too is the price of it. Again, under 140 bucks. The Timbrens themselves. Again, I'm not knocking Timbren. So anybody out there, I love Timbren. But I'm all about also potentially saving money and saving my watchers money. So we got a good little, it's probably painted over powder coating, but it is all coated from the inside around. The welds look decent on this. And so it's going to be a pretty easy install. Now, granted, my truck is gray, so this will look good. For other colors, if this is going on the frame, you may not like the look of silver. And most of the Timbren stuff is all black. So you can keep that in mind, or you can plasti dip it, whatever floats your boat. For me, this color doesn't bother me. But if it does, the mounting hardware is silver, along with all the brackets and braces. Now for me, if your truck comes with a stock sway bar, which most of them will not, I still suggest either way adding this system or one of these systems in a helper type situation. Meaning 95% of the time, if you get the regular Timbren, regular Sumo, not the severe service one, this is not going to affect your ride, guys, in any respect when it comes to anything. You're not going to need to worry about your ride quality or anything like that. So it's just something that really helps with that control under a load and everything like that. Normal, doesn't really bother. So first things first, we got to remove the old bump stops. What I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to install, I removed this one. You're going to need a 13 millimeter deep socket to get down into this hole, and maybe a small extension. And then if you have a stubby ratchet, that way you can get in there. This is off the driver's side. We'll get to the orientation of everything here in just a minute, but let's take a look how different this is. So the composition of it is like a really dense looking foam. It's not a solid piece of rubber. this factory bump stop. So if we look here, you can see that there is a substantial difference, and I'll install one side and then the other. Now you can choose to leave out this spacer if you like, or put the spacer in. Depends on if you're planning on doing the trailering and everything like that. We don't want it to only have like an inch or so in between this. So we'll get underneath there and show you what it looks like with the spacer in, and then you can dictate what you want and how much clearance you want. Because on an F-150, the leaf pack is a lot less stiff. So again, if this is always contacting the base plate, which will be mounted to the axle here, that's going to stiffen up your ride. It's not necessarily bad, but just keep that in mind. We don't want it to be doing that. I always want to leave at least a couple inches. So we'll get underneath there and take a look. All right, guys, so this is what it's going to look like underneath there with the spacer on the driver's side. You can see we don't have a huge gap in there. So I'm going to take that 1-inch spacer out. Again, this will not increase your load capacity, but what it does give you is a progressive 5,000 pound, so 2,500 each side, progressive pushback to help with that sag and of course sway. So to get it to contact, I mean, we're already talking several inches longer than a stock one. So then again, here's where it's going to sit up against the frame, and you can see that even taking this spacer out, guys, this is still going to be a substantial difference in the overall length. So I'm going to take that out because I want more clearance for most of the time in riding. But once we do put a load on it, it's going to sag pretty quick being a 1/2 ton, and this will be in contact with that plate pretty good. So all right, guys, and I will show you once I put this in how easy it is for the bed to be pulled down and put in place. So if you're going to have a shell on, have weight in there all the time, and just with your normal everyday stuff it seems to have that sag, then go ahead and put your spacer in here and just deal with the ride. For me, like I said, I'm just going to leave it like that. We already have several more inches, but once it contacts, it rebounds. Plus this plate sits just a smidge higher than the axle. So again, it's not going to go all the way down to the axle. So we gain probably about 3/4 of an inch there. So that's why I didn't want that extra space in there. So we'll get that tightened up. If you want, it does come with shorter bolts. So if you're not putting the spacer in, you'll take these two, set them aside. You don't need them. And then you use the next size up. This is for mounting it actually to the frame. And if you want to put some thread locker in there, you can. Once I get this mounted, then I will finish tightening that up, because it does come with a cut washer to make sure that it's in good shape there. So we'll get this underneath the truck and I'll show you. All right, next thing you guys need to know, and if you already know this, great. If you don't, L, when it comes to parts, these do have a little bitty stamp in there. It's kind of hard to see. It's kind of up against the edge there. R and left. L is the driver's side, so as if you're sitting in the car, left turn signal, everything like that, that's how that's going to be denoted. So we're going to find the L side and we're going to get this attached, and I'll show you what it looks like over stock. And I do want to show you just how just pulling on the bumper with my own weight underneath it on a 1/2 ton truck will make this compress pretty quick, or at least get close to the actual striking plate. All right, underneath the truck, guys, here's what it's going to look like. So this hole on these plates, these don't have an L and an R, but the instructions show that this hole goes towards the back of the truck. Again, you have a little bit of wiring harness kind of sitting here, but you can see in the instructions it says go ahead and jack up the back end. Well, let me just put my shoulder underneath here. You can see how much movement I get right there and lift it up. Well, if you do that and then you put the spacer in there, it might give you a false sense of gap here. And then you put it down and it's already contacting that. So you can see how this is already inch higher. So I went without the spacer here. I think it's going to get us adequate enough clearance for just regular ride. Once you get that bolted up in there with your 13 mil, you can go ahead and tighten this one up, unless you found a way on the ground to tighten that up. If you had some way to hold it, you're going to get this on here, make sure that these are evenly spaced, and this is basically level for that contact. You don't want it to be tipped too far forward, too far back. But you'll see right here when I put my weight underneath it how much compression we're actually getting already, and that's one arm, not even full body weight. If we go over here, see how far that bump stop is? It's got to be 8 inches away from that. So again, there is the stock clearance. Let's get a good focus on here. Maybe, there we go, about 8 inches. And here unweighted, everything like that. Now again, this is going to compress pretty quick, so I think that's a good gap. Leave the spacer out, but you choose for you guys. All right, we're going to get this other side installed. Now, one thing, guys, I will tell you, if you don't have one of these, I'll put a link in it. You can buy a cheap one of these at Harbor Freight. You can buy one from Design. I'll put the link in the description. This is a little magnet grabber. It's telescoping like an old antenna. It's badass. And what this does is allows you to pick up the nut or the bolt, shove it all the way up in there where it's hard, then flip the thing upside down, because you're going to have a couple washers and a lock washer on that actual rubber piece. And if you try and drop it in, you're never going to make it. This right here is awesome. And you can find purposes for us all over, especially if you drop something down into an engine compartment, and you can do that. So that's how I'm going to get the nut into the actual rubber piece. So you are going to need a 17 millimeter, and I'll get underneath there and point these out for you real quick, show you what they look like. Always keep your OEM bump stop, so if you trade off and get another F-150, more than likely this will fit. I do believe that these are good for 15 and up to current at 23, and for 24 I don't anticipate or haven't heard any major changes to the frames. So let's get underneath there and point things out, and it actually looks really good, guys. All right, guys, so from the back, that's what she looks like right here. So I'm going to point this out real quick. So this is your 17 that you're going to need. You're going to need just a 17 regular socket. You'll need a deep well for the one that's in here, the 16, and then the one that mounts to the frame is a 13 mil. There is the passenger side. Again, guys, I left out the spacer because you can see we only have about 2 inches here. There's no real torque specs, and this has anti-seize a little bit, and then these are nylon threaded, so you don't have to worry about that. Get them nice and tight, and you are set up, guys, to have a lot of extra stability on the road. Again, I will put a link in the description, so again, you can just click it, head over here. Very pleased with the overall quality of this at a third of the price of the Timbrens, and exact same concept, and they also have a lifetime warranty. So if you haven't subscribed already, smash that button for me, hit the like, and we have tons of F-150 content coming up. And don't worry, guys, on my HD side, we'll be back mid-spring with more HD stuff coming.